a little bit of help. We'll need a pen.
Welcome to the January 8th, 2024 Valdese Town Council meeting. We have a crowd tonight. I thought somebody out front we should have sold tickets. But I'm glad everybody's here. Really looking forward to recognizing our football champions. So if you'll stand with me, we'll do the invocation and then we'll do the pledge of allegiance, please. Let's bow our heads, please. Kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight as a town to conduct our town business. I thank you, Lord, for each one that's here, especially our young members who have done an outstanding job this year in their attempts to achieve championship level at our football leagues. And I pray you'll bless them and guide them, direct them in the future. Pray, Lord, you'll bless us with a new year, that you'll bless us with wisdom and knowledge and guidance and direction, that we conduct our business according to your will and to do what's best for our citizens and our town. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, council, in your packet, as always, there's quite a bit of, thank you, informational material from our staff and our department heads as far as their activities during the past month of December, and it appears that several departments were quite busy during the Christmas season, so I recommend you read that. It's got some good information in it. The next thing I'd like to do before we go into open forum is to recognize our ball teams, our championship ball teams. let me add that. And if David Anderson would come forward and help us with that, please. That way we can get you folks in and out.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here before you this evening to recognize our first of 2 championship ball teams today. Our 5 to 7-year-old championship team. I've got Clay and Rodney Sis, Ken Stringfield, and Drake and Cade as coaches. They're going to come up real quick, give you a brief rundown of the season. Come on, boys. You guys want to go line up?
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank the council, first of all, for inviting our team out here, both teams. It means a lot with the community giving our kids recognition that they do deserve. We started this season really a lot earlier than typically. We started with optional workouts, just giving the kids the opportunity to come out, play in a facilitated environment that just benefits the kids, gives them an opportunity to get out and meet their teammates, play, have fun, just enjoy each other. And that's the biggest thing the season's about. It's not about wins, it's not about losses, it's about the memories you have. And a big thing is also the men that coach. These young men right here are actually, believe it or not, I know they're young, they're the same men that coached me when I come through Valdese. And I know, they're young, I didn't believe it. So it's full circle, definitely being able to come back to my community, which means so much to me, and serve my community and bring these kids up. So again, just thank you, God bless, go Valdese.
On behalf of the council, I'd like to thank our coaches and our parents for the time and effort that you folks put into these ball teams. This takes a lot of work, and we all recognize that, and we appreciate you making our town a better place and teaching our children about teamwork and hard work. So thank you. Youth football. Craig Treadway, head coach. John Treadway, Mr. Lambert. Craig, if you want to come say a couple quick words.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for having us here. Again, we had a great season. We only lost one game in the regular season. That was to Salem. They beat us 22-18 in the regular season. Ironically, they went undefeated for the season. We got to face them again at the end of the season in the championship game with Freedom High School. And they had us the first half. First half, we were down 20-14. The guys, they caught their second gear, and we come back and beat them 38-20. Great season. We tallied it up at one time. I think we'd outscore our opponents like 256 to 28. 256. Again, the majority of those points came from Salem, as far as points allowed. Some of these kids are actually repeat champions with us from the year before last. Few of them were first-year players, but every single one of these kids improved from day one. We came together as a team. Couldn't be more happy than what I am with them. We get a lot of them back next year. Some of them will stay back with another year of Mighty Mites, which we'll get you again the following year. But these kids, we just really love them, guys, gentlemen, and ladies. And, just a great season all around. Great parents. They really thank the parents for having me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Coach Treadway, again, I want to express the town's appreciation, even for you, how much we appreciate the time and the effort our coaches and our parents take to teach our children, our future leaders, the importance of hard work and teamwork. This is the second or third time you've been in here with a championship team, so that speaks highly of you. I also, and I never can let this pass, but I know that his children were taught to play football by his wife because she told him. Congratulations, guys. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
So thank you all very much for hosting the championship team this year. Really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting our program.
Thank you. Do we know how many folks are out front waiting for a seat to come in here? Okay, if you would direct those that want to stay for the meeting to go in the community room, please, Chief.
Stay right there. Yeah, ready to get started.
Okay. Moving on to open forum. And I'm going to read the guidelines for speaking to the council or addressing council during the open forum. So if you'll bear with me, please. The council shall provide at least one period for public comment per month during a regular meeting unless no regular meeting is held that month. Any individual or group who wishes to address council shall inform the town clerk anytime prior to the start of the meeting and provide their name, address, subject matter about which they wish to speak. Persons must be present if they wish to address council. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. And I'll also add, when you come up to speak, as well as council, we need to be sure to speak into our mics. This helps with our broadcasting challenge in the back. So be sure to use the mic when you speak. And if you also would, put your cell phones and mobile devices on mute, please. Okay. First up, Mr. Perry.
Good morning, or good evening, this morning or evening, but good evening, council members. I'd like to thank the 3 council members that voted to allow me to serve the town of Valdese as the interim town manager from December 4th to the 31st of the month. Gary Ogle, Heather Ward, and Glenn Harvey. I also appreciate the cooperation I received from Mr. Mears and Rex on the law as well. First thing I did was had a staff meeting on December 11th. And it was obvious that the department heads and other staff were worried about their being dismissed because of some of the rumors that were heard during the election campaign. I was quick to assure them that I had no intention of dismissing anyone and alleviate their concerns that the new majority would ask me to dismiss anyone. We talked about the tax increases, and they were concerned about, why did the incumbents lose, and I basically said to them that it's hard for a town to increase taxes 24% and expect their change not to happen with maybe the town manager and a new majority because of that fact. And blaming it on the county is not really fair because the town council sets the tax increase. I also assured the department heads that there were no intentions on my part or the part of any of the new elected majority to cut essential services. In fact, none of the money from the tax increase was going to the fire department, police department, library, or the rec center anyway. I presented 2 short videos about change and change management and how sometimes change is hard and difficult, but sometimes it can be good if we embrace change and try to do the best that we can to work together. I told them about people getting fired was really just a lot of rumors, and that I would have a part in it. I want to thank all the department heads that I met with for spending time with me, and I would especially like to thank Bo and Jessica Lell, who went beyond the call of duty to help me out. Working with department heads, we were able to accomplish a couple things during December, even though there were quite a few holidays. We started the process of increasing security at one of our locations. With the help of Bo, we are purchasing equipment to live stream the meetings, which will save the county money versus renting it each month. David Anderson presented a plan to me to get warm air back in the pool. It's a big concern for a lot of our residents, and he told me he could do it for $7,500 and stay under his budget, so I approved it, I think on December 21st. And I think today it started working, so safety bill. The town has a long-term debt of nearly $11 million. If we proceed with a building that could have cost as much as, we don't know, $12 million, we'd be more in debt than any small town in North Carolina. Additionally, about every employee I talked to in the last month disagreed with the location of the new building. Also, we do not need a building with a classroom for 40 people, a kitchen with seating for 12, 6 recliners, 8 bunk beds, fire chief offices, seating of 9, 2 patios, 4 sergeant offices. At that rate, to seat 400 people, it would take 300 years based on our growth, because in the last 45 years, we've gone from 9 police officers to 14. So the building was just a little bit more than what I think the people could handle. It looked like a lot of wants rather than a lot of actual needs. So in closing, I implore you to take immediate action to empower our new interim town manager to search out and engage an architectural engineer.
Mr.
Perry,
Time's up.
You can't, after I worked here for $1 a month, make it. Got like 3 more cents.
Okay, let me do it the right way. I need a motion to extend Mr. Perry's.
I'd like to make a motion
And
to
second.
extend.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, signify.
Renovate because it has 3 sections. The employees of our town deserve a better facility than what they currently have. The time for action is now. Be decisive, repair that building as soon as possible, as costs will only go up if you procrastinate. Take action tonight or by the latest in the February meeting. And thank you again, all the employees that I work with and the council. I appreciate my time.
Tucker, and I live at 210 Forest Drive, Northeast, in Valdese. Thank you for allowing me to come speak to you tonight. And I'm here to talk about the Valdese Recreation Department, and specifically the swimming pool and the bowl, and the need for improvement. In full disclosure, I am an appointed member of the Valdese Recreation Commission, but tonight I am speaking for myself. I've been a lifelong swimmer. My family and I moved to Valdese in 1992, and the Valdese Recreation Center has been a part of our lives here. My children participated in the football, basketball, baseball, and recreation leagues. My daughter swam for the Eastburg swim team using the Valdese pool, and my son was the lifeguard here during his high school years. When Jeff Morris was our town manager at the time, and Sonny Dyer, they started a sprint triathlon program here. It boosted the adult participation at the Recreation Center and introduced me to many new friends, and it helped me to return to a focus of swimming. Currently, I am a member of the Valdese Torpedoes Masters Swim Team. I have competed in the Unifor Senior Games that had previously been held in Lenore and are scheduled to be held in Valdese this year. I've competed in the Cary, North Carolina State Senior Games and have qualified and competed twice in the National Senior Games Olympics. Now, with a proclamation extending congratulations to me that helped bring this recognition and honor to the town of Valdese, and the chance to swim year-round made that possible. And I brought the little proclamation that I'm very proud to have received. The availability of year-round swimming is a unique draw for Valdese. There is not anything of this quality, size, or affordability that is offered in nearby communities. Our year-round swimming program is not just a nice offering, it is a life-changing opportunity for many. It's just one of the things that show we actually care about the health and well-being of our citizens, our students, and the area residents. The pool is not just for fun, although I think it is a lot of fun. It offers the possibility for social gathering. When we started that, it was supposed to last for 10 years. And I'm asking you to now consider a more permanent structure, one that doesn't require closing the facility for days and losing the availability to swim and the income it provides, and costing many man-hours to take the bubble down in the spring, put it up in the fall, and move it to storage. I want you to please consider making a long-term commitment by building a permanent structure for year-round swimming, not just another bubble. This is not an idea that's just been popping up in current conversation. It has been discussed for several years, since 2010, and I had received a booklet then of possible permanent structures, and it's still, bubble's holding on, thank goodness. It needs a permanent building to provide a swimming environment for all seasons. I'm going to give just a copy of a couple of the pictures of possible options. I want you to just look at the possibilities a building like this can provide for deserving people of Valdese. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next is J. Edward McFadden.
I'm better known around town as Ed McFadden. I was a resident in this community for more than 25 years, although the last few years my wife and I moved to our dream home out in the county. But I do come back frequently. My current address is 2500 Henry River Trail in Morganton. And I'm going to talk to you about Valdese recreation, just as Nancy has, and offer my perspective and my experiences of working and using the facilities here. Although I no longer live within the town limits, my son and family does continue to live here and uses the facilities as well. I want to talk about what this town has. It is a gym in the pool and the bubble and year-round use of that. I joined the pool and recreation center, even though I lived here, I had joined before now, swam and exercised elsewhere. But I joined in 2001 as part of a rehabilitation effort on my part after a serious bicycle crash, which injured my shoulder and required a bit of a hospital stay. So I spent time working and rehabbing there at the pool. And since that time, I have continued to use the facility, even though I moved out of town and there are pools closer. There's nothing like Valdese, as Nancy just noted, that this pool is the best in Burke County for a variety of uses, such as she mentioned, aqua-size, youth swimming, and the adult swimming, as I remember. As you see from my attire, I am a proud member of the Valdese Torpedoes Masters Program and have been so, and as Nancy has participated at the national level. I too have participated in a different organizational national level representing Valdese, and certainly have participated at state and regional swim meets. And so when we go as a team, we are wearing Valdese attire. So people know, as she noted, to look for a more permanent building and how to do that. There are lots of different options, and you know as well as I that we could spend, we, the town or the community could spend several $100,000, several $1 million on building a giant facility, which we don't need. But there are good options that are reasonably priced and still give us the opportunity of having year-round swimming. I hope that you will hear me and continue to maintain year-round swimming for this community and the environs. I hope that you will direct the recreation department to look into a more permanent structure.
Mr. McFadden, your time is up, sir.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Okay, Mike Ferris.
Watch it. Good evening, everyone. Mayor, councilpersons, town attorney. I'm going to stay off of your backside. My name is Michael Ferris. My address is 7721 Woodland Hills Road in Hickory, North Carolina. And even though I do live in Hickory, I do live in Burke County. And although I'm not a Valdese resident, I do have a vested interest in this town. You see, my great-great-grandfather was called to this beautiful town from his home in the Waldensian Valleys to be the pastor at the Waldensian Presbyterian Church. Reverend John Pons was the pastor of the Waldensian Presbyterian Church from 1907 to 1909, and again from 1918 to 1925. His wife, Lydia Jackman Pons, was a baby of just 9 months old when she came to America with her parents, Jean-Jacques Jackman and Virginia Perenelle. These individuals were amongst the contingent that embarked steerage on the steamship Kaiser Wilhelm II on November the 8th, 1893, came through Ellis Island, and arrived in Valdese on the 23rd of November, also in 1893. My great-grandfather, Onaldo Trigger Pons, is hanging out on that back wall right there. He was mayor from Valdese from 1949 to 1953, and along with his brother, Walter, began Pons Insurance, the business that is now Brinkley Insurance and sits in the same location. Like my father, his father before him, and his father-in-law before him, I work at Ferris Insurance Agency. I'm proud to be a Waldensian, and I'm proud to be tied to the town of Valdese, which is why I'm standing in front of you right now. I want to be transparent. I have nothing to hide. You see, transparency, when you're applying that characteristic to individuals or groups of individuals, isn't just the ability to see what people are doing, but how they're doing it and why they're doing it. I am standing up here to let it be known in the public record that what has been marked as transparency from the incoming members of the Valdese Town Council doesn't seem like transparency to a bunch of us, me included. The first example would be of how the very first meeting of this town council, Mr. Eddie Peru was named as the interim town manager without putting the item on the council's agenda or discussing that issue with all parties that had a vote. Did you have the right to force that item onto the agenda? Of course. As the town council, you have the right to do that. But you didn't take into consideration whether you should. All of you are also charged to act ethically. Whether you like Mr. Peru, don't like Mr. Peru, or indifferent about Mr. Peru. The process wasn't followed the way it should have been. I also know that your response to that statement could be that decisions regarding the employment of the prior town manager were made with haste, without your input, and not the way that you would have liked to have seen it done. My response to that would be the same that I give to my children. We try to do what is right at all times, no matter what others do. We don't let other people's decisions decide who we are as people. I expect the same from all of you sitting up there. The second example, which I don't think is transparent at all, is the fact that I tried to find the Citizen for a Better Valdese Facebook page today. Incredibly, it was nowhere to be found. This page had a laundry list of things that Councilman Harvey said he was going to do. Accusations and proclamations were made on that page nearly daily. Some of them seemed slanderous. And those accusations he made personally were about the people that used to sit in the seats on which you now sit. Funny, I'd love to be able to bring some of those up, but the information on that page is no longer available. And before it was completely shut down, had been heavily redacted and edited. If you're going to make the accusations and promises during the campaign, then keep the page up so the public can audit your work while you're doing it. The third and final straw for me regarding the transparency is in reference to the story that has broken today and last night in the paper about how you have been using personal Google email addresses to send emails to the council regarding the de-annexation of the UNC Blue Ridge Hospital out of Valdese. It seems to me that sending messages to the council from your personal account, as opposed to the one that you're provided by the town for all of your financial or official duties, is a slippery slope to backroom deals or coming to pre-selected determinations regarding matters where decisions should be made at the meetings, not before, in pre-arranged dialogue. It seems like we might not be seeing all of the whys and hows that we deserve as a community when it comes to some of the actions of our council members. I'll leave on this. The people of this town will not allow anyone to settle personal scores with the gavel. When you say transparent, mean it. Otherwise, you're no better than the crooks in Washington. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Karen Linkus.
I'm
You might
Karen.
have to pull that down a little bit. Thank you.
I'm Karen Linkus, and I live at 301 St. Germain Avenue, Southeast in Valdese. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. In 2018, I was appointed to a pool committee to begin the process of reconfiguring the current pool and possibly adding a structure that would allow for year-round swimming. We also wanted to add a fitness center to provide equipment and encourage exercise and good health for adults. We had big dreams. We met with other towns that had structures. We talked with architects. We talked with people at facilities that sponsored year-round swim teams. We envisioned teaching more kids and adults to swim. We envisioned hosting social events, providing lap swimming, water aerobics classes, scuba diving, and just regular swimming fun. We had a town manager and town council who wholeheartedly encouraged this ambitious undertaking. It was a big investment in time, talent, and money, and our dreams came true. The Jimmy C. Drone Aquatic and Fitness Center was created. I walked into the brand new bubble for the first time on September 19, 2000. Since that time, the Aquatic Center has sponsored many different swim teams. It's hosted many swim meets, which incidentally attract lots of people to other businesses in our town. It has taught swimming lessons, trained swimmers in lifeguarding and first aid and CPR certification, hosted many birthday parties, provided water aerobics classes, hosted Special Olympics events, hosted a weekend workshop from a gold medal Olympic swimmer, and I'm sure there's other events that I'm not aware of. My now adult children began with swim lessons when they were 3 or 4 years old. They were on the rec swim teams and their high school teams. They too participated at the regional and state levels. All 3 were lifeguards, and one helped coach the summer swim team. My youngest son has recently begun swimming with the Master Swimming Group. The Recreation Center has been a huge part of my family's life. The current bubble was supposed to last for 8 to 10 years, and we are now on year 24, and our pools need some attention. Please keep our pool and fitness center thriving for its original purpose. It is not a profit center. It's a public service that promotes good health and recreation for Valdese citizens and people of nearby areas. I'm counting on this council to keep its pledge to not cut services in Valdese. The Aquatics and Fitness Center has been an inspiration for other small towns and a source of pride for Valdese. It is a dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you. Brady Linkus.
I'm Brady Linkus. I also live at 301 St. Germain Avenue in Valdese. Been a Valdese resident for a little over 40 years. And I want to talk just a moment or 5 about the ad hoc committees that are being formed here. And I want you to know that the idea of homelessness and hopeless addiction to drugs and alcohol, that whole idea that that's new to Valdese is such a ridiculous notion. Homelessness and addiction exist in every town, every city, every village, anywhere in the world. I see it everywhere I go. Addicts exist at every socioeconomic level, physicians, business owners, bankers, and yes, the homeless. Even more ridiculous is the idea that this is a government problem. And if we only had the right politicians who could create the right committees, we could solve the problem. There are even politicians who have learned to exploit these very human tragedies in order to assume power, make the people fearful of these new problems. Well over 40 years ago, I arrived in downtown Valdese very early one morning. As I recall, the day of the annual Valdese Festival had arrived, and I was there to photograph all the merchant preparations. As I walked past an old Ford sedan parked at the service station on Main Street, a young man emerged from the back seat, stood up and stretched a bit before liberally spraying himself from head to toe with deodorant. I recognized at once that he was someone who was involved in local theater and had often seen him on our streets. I had no idea he was indeed homeless. I later learned that both he and his brother had been living on our streets. And then later that same day, over 40 years ago, I photographed a man who was seen dancing to imaginary tunes and pushing a grocery cart on our streets. He struggled so very hard with mental illness. Then, in 1992, just days after becoming a Valdese homeowner for the second time, I was outside on a chilly November morning, proudly attaching a brand new garden hose to our home, when I was startled by our garage door opening and a young woman walking out of my garage carrying a few of her belongings. She smiled and said good morning and explained that she'd been sleeping in our garage while the house was empty and that she would now move on. As she walked across St. Germain Avenue, she said, "It's warmer in there than you might think." Again, that was 1992. Here's a reminder of some things we already know. And listen to me. This is important. Governments are by nature bureaucratic. They are slow and cumbersome. Government, although well-meaning, always gets in the way. Committees are seldom effective and often unnecessary. I'm even thinking of the term government-sponsored efficiency committee, which I think is being planned, is probably the best example of an oxymoron I can think of. The ageless problem of homelessness and addiction is a people problem, and it should be addressed by caring people who can look a person in the eye and tell them that there's a God who loves them, that he hasn't forgotten them, and that he's ready to help them through you. No government has ever been needed to do that. No committee has ever been needed to do that. Please stop the campaigning. The election is over. If you're truly concerned about these issues, then roll up your sleeves and bake some biscuits, just like you could have for the last 40 years. I know some churches are helping, others need to get involved. It's cold outside tonight. If you want to help the homeless, stop talking about the committee you want to form to save the day and take some meaningful action. Pass out some coats. Hold an addict's hand and tell them this is going to be the hardest thing that they will ever do, but you're going to help get them to treatment. The campaign is over. We've put away the signs, and it's time for each of you to step up and have a positive and independent voice for the people of Valdese. This is a beautiful town. It's filled with great people. Let's begin building on what we have instead of finding ways to move backward.
Thank you, sir. The next name that I have, ma'am, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to you before I butcher your name. Miss Denise Kazinski.
Denise.
I got the Denise right, didn't I? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Kazinski, and I'm from Conley Springs. There is no place in Conley Springs for fitness, for exercise, for any of that. I came to Valdese to be able to work in the rec center and then discovered the great year-round pool. I am a swimmer, and I would swim 5 days a week and do a mile a day. I love swimming. If that's taken away, I would have problems. I used rehab at the pool because I had a knee replacement.
Was to continue the ugliness, the rumors, the division, the dishonesty, the disrespect, the disregard, and was evidence of poor judgment and poor decision-making, all of which are not qualities that we want on our Valdese Town Council. I believe by doing this, there is no way that this person plans to work together with this town council for the betterment of Valdese. I recently heard a quote that I thought was fitting in this situation. People do things for two reasons, love or fear. Certainly the decision that this person made was not made out of love. So my question is, what do they fear? I'd also like to add that it is my belief that Brian Steen, Tim Swanson, Heather Ward, Glenn Harvey, Gary Ogle themselves did not make what I call a despicable decision. I'm all about transparency, as was Ward, Harvey, Ogle when they shared their political platform. However, information shared should be correct and should be agreed upon by all town council, not a poor decision and action by a troubled member of the council. Another issue was that was published in this confidential email was a person who was terminated by the town of Valdese continues to serve the town of Valdese on the board, as well as to continue to use our Valdese rec free of charge. I would like to say that my opinion is any person terminated by the town of Valdese should never continue to serve the town of Valdese on any board or to get free membership to our Valdese Rec. For reasons that I have shared above, it is my belief that whoever leaked this email labeled confidential should consider resigning their duties to the town of Valdese. It would seem this person has no intention to work together, to have respect, to be honest, trustworthy, to correct the division in Valdese,
Ma'am,
or to make
your time is
decisions.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Margaret Sundell.
Cool. I am Margaret Sundell, and I am thankful that everybody's here and talking about the pool tonight. I'm the new kid on the block. I moved here a year ago to swim and to hike the beautiful mountains of your state. I'm going to be more anecdotal. The other two have covered everything that was perfect about the pool. But
and to a lot of other people. A lot of us were born there. And, well, doesn't make it a shrine for me, but there probably were some better people than me that were. So, I can't think of anyone that's a Valdese native who would think of doing such a thing. Because, like I said, this is a part of our town. It was built with the sweat and work, hard work, and monies for people from this town and the surrounding area, but mostly from this town. Mostly from doctors and their associates who live in this town. Right now it bears the name of a different company, but it is still owned and is still a non-profit hospital. And it should remain as such. The town is not in the business to make money. It is to serve its citizens with the best of what their resources are. And that is what I believe. A dollar value cannot be put on the relationship that Valdese Hospital has with the town of Valdese. It is a selling point for this town, and I don't think it should be apart. Secondly, and this is a very divisive thing, the mention of the storm truck, for lack of a better word, the ladder truck, is one. It can be used in multiple places that are tall or have a long end reach. Having been a plant engineer, I know this. Mayor Watson, he was on the fire department, coming to put a lot of fires out at the Meridian when I worked there. If a fire gets on the roof of some of these larger buildings, there's nothing we have that has the reach. And you think of all the churches that are in this town, new apartment complex, which is 3 stories, the ones about to be built. The Church Street apartments come to mind. There's a lot of existing buildings other than the hospital that require an apparatus of this type. So what I say is, don't put a dollar amount on the safety of this town, because we all depend on it, and you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jeanie Hudson.
I'm gonna start my timer, so keep track of all, so. Okay. Not that I don't trust you, that didn't come out right, sorry.
No, you're fine. I need all the help I can get.
I don't have a prepared speech, is the only reason. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I do apologize, I don't have a prepared speech. Today's my husband's birthday, and I was planning on spending the evening with him, but unfortunately, out of fear, I guess, as Brenda said, I feel like I need to come here and explain to you why we need to have the pool open year-round. My name is Jeanie Hudson. I live at 412 Fayette Street. I'm in Ward 5. I've lived in Valdese for right at 30 years. My husband's lived here all his life. We have 2 college kids. Those kids were born and raised here. They lived in the pool, and I don't take that lightly. They lived in the pool. They are also town employees. They're both lifeguards. One's a current lifeguard. The other one is away at college. They've spent their life in the pool, to say the least. They've taught many of the children that we probably saw here tonight in swim lessons, and many of the children that probably grandchildren in the audience as well. I am an original member of the Valdese ABC Board, and I'm also a member of the Master Swim Team. That's a new adventure for me, and I am a lot slower than Nancy Tucker, I can tell you that. To say the least, I consider myself a vested member of the town. One thing that I would like to ask, just as a show of hands of the council, how many of you use the pool on a regular basis? I know Roxana does. I see her there all the time. So none of you use the pool on a regular basis? Okay.
I use the workout room, that's where I'm at all the time.
Okay, that's fine. So needless to say, you don't really have a vested interest.
Yeah, I have that same issue.
I'm Jeanie Hudson. I live at 705 Ferris Street in Valdese for at least the last 29 plus years. Makes me wish I signed up to talk about the pool because I'm in favor of everything they said. However, I had decided another little thing that I just wanted to bring up and ask. We've got our new schedules for trash pickup and recycle and all of that. And rough trash pickup that the town does. And I'm very thankful for that whole service. And mostly it works out just like it has every year. But I noticed on this year's schedule, we scheduled rough trash pickup on a Sunday. And I'm just curious, when we have, say, a Thursday open, it looks like maybe, that nothing gets picked up. Why did we pick a Sunday, which in my mind says we're paying more to pick it up? So.
That's probably a typo.
Solid color, that's solid color. That was the reason for my concern. It's in color on the map, so unless somebody misunderstood, and if it's not
Mr.
Sunday.
Hudson here, Alan here.
It indicates the entire week, not just Sunday.
Okay.
It indicates that that's the week that
Oh,
that area
so
will
they
be
will pick
serviced.
it up for the whole week
Yes, ma'am.
that week?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Marissa.
That makes sense to me, it's always makes it easy for me to put up anything I like now, because I've always appreciated that. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, council, that includes open forum. Moving on to our next item 6, the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Item E, approval of the resolutions establishing new town of Valdese ad hoc committees. We discussed that last council meeting, so we're confirming that today, correct? With this passing this?
That's my understanding, yes.
Councilmember Mears, I'll just add to that, there are draft resolutions in the agenda packet that you would have had an opportunity to look at. Yeah, those 3 committees is what that refers to.
Okay. Motion, please, council.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Second, please.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, those who approve, please indicate by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, council. Okay, new business, item 7. The first item A, introduction of new police officer, and I believe Chief Buchanan will take care of that for us. James.
Good evening. This is our newest officer, full-time officer, Roger Ruffin. He has graduated Police Academy in 2022. He's been employed with Concord PD. He worked down there for a short stint and decided to move back to Burke County. Now he's in a 16-week field training policy procedure for our town. He's glad to work with you.
Good to have you, Roger. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Okay, council, item B, presentation of financial update for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, and this is presented by Loudermilk and Church and Bo.
Council, good to see you this evening. We did finish, I'm Phil Church, and this is Rick Hammer, who was actually in charge of the audit. Finished the June 30th, 23 audit. Things went very well. Though does a great job for us. Let's get through this, and very smooth, went very well. You have highlights. Do you have highlights that we prepared in your packet? Okay, we'll be going over the highlights, not the actual financial statements, because it's 110 pages long, and it would take 3 or 4 hours to do that. So, a couple of quick comments. We did give you a clean, unmodified opinion, which of course is the type of opinion that you want to have. On the basic financial statements, you did have what we call an A133 audit because of the level of your funding, and we had an unmodified opinion on that also. The OGC has looked, Local Government Commission has looked at the report, reviewed it, and they have approved it also. Like I said, Bo, your financial director, does a very good job, and I appreciate his help. So what we're going to do, I'm going to let Rick was actually in charge of the audit, so let him go over these financial highlights with you. If you have a question, as we go along, stop us and we'll try to answer it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go over the financial highlights quickly. The first part is the general fund, which is the main operating fund of the town. And you can see there's a 2023 column, which is the June 30, 23 amount. And then for comparison, there's a prior year 22 column, just so you get an idea of the change from one year to the next. As far as the general fund, you had cash and cash equivalents at June 30 of $7,258,921 in the general fund, and then total assets of about $8.4 million in the general fund. The total fund balance, both available and restricted fund balances, was $8,136,499. Included in that amount was $68,000 for Powell bill, restricted for Powell bill or street paving and such. Total revenues for the general fund for the year was $6,358,347, and total expenditures was just under $5.4 million. So the revenues exceeded expenditures in that area by just over $1 million for the year. You also had some transfers in and out of the general fund. They netted out to about $44,000. So for the year ending June 30, 2023, you had an increase in your fund balance for the town was $1,046,927. A few other items in the general fund, as far as your ad valorem taxes collected, you collected $2,430,847 during the year, and you collected 97.8% of the current year levy last year. And then investment income, that was $418,578, and you can see that went up substantially due to the increase in interest rates and the better investments that you have. The bottom section there is your fund balance availability. So you had unassigned fund balance at the end of June was $6,587,565. Your expenditures and transfers out totaled about $6.3 million. So that's the calculation to get your unassigned fund balance percentage. So at the end of June, you had 105.62% of your expenditures were available in your fund balance.
Might want to mention that state average for a town your size and modern electricity is about 85%.
The second page of the highlights is just the water and sewer fund information. So again, you have comparative amounts, 23 and 22, just to give you an idea of the changes. So you had cash and cash equivalents in the water sewer fund, $3,879,495, and total assets, which includes your system, your water and sewer fund system, is $29,578,325. So you had a net position, or your equity in the water sewer fund at the end of June was about $23.1 million. As far as operating revenues, you took in $5,739,522, and you expended just under $5.9 million, which that includes depreciation expense also, which is like a non-cash kind of expense. But so you had operating loss of $127,903 for the year. You had some transfers in from other funds, about $372,000, and then some grant income or capital contributions of $37,082. So when you net all those amounts together, you ended up increasing the equity or the net position in the water sewer fund $507,916. And again, some additional information we always provide as far as accounts receivable. You had about $700,000 at the end of June in accounts receivable. And you had investment income in the water sewer fund of $31,284. And then there's a little ratio we do every year just to see how long it takes you to collect your receivables. The days sales of receivables is about 43.96. And then the last section there is the fund balance availability. You had unrestricted fund balance in the water sewer fund, $4,249,000. And dividing that by your expenditures of $6.1 million, you end up with an unrestricted fund balance percentage of 69.24%. One thing that's not on this sheet, I think we're going to talk about later, is the LGC. We have to do a worksheet for them every year, and it has financial indicators, and if something pops up that they don't like, or you need to respond to it as a council. The one that's popped up this year was the water system life expectancy. If it's under 0.5, you have to respond to that. So I think we're going to talk about that later. But it showed up as a new ratio they had this year, and I think all but one of my clients had that show up. So just telling the council that your system's a little older, and I think you do a study on that anyway. So
this is pretty much coming up in every small town. They talk about the water and sewer systems. LGC does.
Would you say that again, Mr. Church? I didn't.
This is coming up, the comment regarding the water and sewer system is not just you, the town of Valdese, it's coming up with just about every small town in the state. What they're saying is it's beginning to get outdated, and they're wanting you to start a plan to get it updated, the water and sewer system. Any comments on the numbers, everyone? I know we're doing pretty quickly, it's a lot of big numbers. We're glad to meet with you anytime to talk about it on an individual basis. One other thing is a letter, we call a letter to governance. We're supposed to let you know if anything came up during the audit that we didn't agree on between us and Bo and his staff, but nothing came up. Things went very well, no problems, no issues, no disagreements.
Okay, council questions?
I know last year I asked the same question. I'll ask this year. So our financial condition, can you give an opinion that we're, compared to other municipalities, we're in great financial shape?
I think you're in good financial shape.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Steen, by the way, welcome, Mr. Steen. Do you have any opinion on our financial condition after, I don't know, I'm sure you've had a chance to look at this. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you have tremendous experience. Do you have any opinion on what you notice about our financial condition?
You're doing a lot better than others.
Yeah. Yeah. We worked with Mr. Steen for years, so I can know this pretty well. Except he's got something on his face now that
I had some heavy cream before I came down here.
Councilman Harvey.
That 105% available fund balance tells you a whole lot. That's more than most anyone we see.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for me. I spent most of today going through the audit, and I don't really have any questions about the way you put it together, but I'd like to get clarification on just a couple numbers if I could. The town had set up a fund to fund the potential new public safety building. And I just wondered if you'd comment on what the amount is. I mean, Bo has explained it's somewhere around $1.5 million, but is this a number that you could comment on? And then I have a couple questions about it. Like, let me go ahead and ask the question. As I understand it, whatever these funds are, they've been allocated. They were being set aside each year, $400,000 or so, as a sort of down payment on this building if it happened. Well, the building's not going to happen now. So do we need to do a reallocation of that? Do we need to do a reassignment of that? And then I'd like to ask a couple questions about what else we could use that money for.
Yeah, at the end of June, there's about...
Gentlemen, could I get you speaking? Thank you.
At the end of June, you had about $1,079,000 in that fund that had accumulated between what the town had put in, what had been spent, and everything. I mean, if you're not going to use it, then the council just needs to reallocate that, yeah?
I guess they came about under an ordinance.
Yeah, I mean,
So they'd have to go back and redo the ordinance.
Okay, so could we then, will we be able to allocate that for emergency repairs on the police department, the existing police department, fire department, if we found out we needed something done there quickly? Could we use those funds for that?
I mean, it might be a legal question, but I would think so.
And if we were to go ahead with renovation of that building, could we use some or all those funds for that? Would that be okay?
It just says for a public safety building, it doesn't say which one.
I'm sorry?
The title of the fund says Public Safety Building Project
We could
Fund.
rename the project.
Okay, well then, a couple other questions. Could we use, if the renovation of the old Rock School runs $500,000 over what the allocation is for that. Could we use those funds for that?
Saying they reallocate to different funds.
You'd have to go through, redo an ordinance, I would think, wouldn't you, Mr. Swanson?
I'm just asking from an auditing standpoint.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to go through some kind of improvement to do the changes.
And then as we heard tonight, if we needed to spend $500,000 for a bubble in a pool, that's something that the council would be able to do. They could reallocate some of these funds in that
I would say
direction.
you could. Yeah, you have to go through an ordinance to do it.
Yeah, I think that's outside the purview of your audit, but I do understand the questions, and we'll certainly dig in to get you answers to those questions.
And the point is that we have, those funds could be used for, maybe outside of purview of the audit, those funds could be used for swimming pool, Old Rock School, the old public safety building. Okay, I don't want to take up too much time here because the night's getting late. One of the numbers that caught my interest, because I'm been kind of a car guy, but, I was going to ask you about under the listing of the town's capital assets, we've got vehicles and motorized equipment of almost $300,000, but that's net of depreciation. So I was going to ask you, what's the total value? But then I found it back on page 34. The total value of our vehicles and motorized equipment is $2.8 million. Now that's a big number. That just kind of struck me, and I thought people ought to understand that.
You say you're talking about the vehicles.
I'm talking about page 34 of your audit report.
Yeah, that's the gross
You
value.
keep calling it values, it's cost.
Okay, but that's what it is, $2.8 million.
That was the cost.
That was before we started depreciating them, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. So, and the total value of our buildings at the same time is $7.2 million.
That's
Right.
the cost of the buildings, yeah.
Right. Before it was depreciated.
Yeah.
Okay. But I just thought it was interesting that all the buildings that Valdese owns, original cost before you depreciated them, was a little over $7 million. All the vehicles we have sitting in town is almost $3 million. So I just thought that was an interesting number. I have another question that's, I think, an auditing question, I hope so. There's about $30,000 or $35,000 that I've never been able to quite figure out. We have 3 of those vehicles in the inventory are being used for personal commuting by employees. And I've asked over the years 3 or 4 times how that's handled. And I've got different answers at different times. The answer I got one time was, well, we calculate that value and report it on the W-2 forms, which is the way that I did it for 20 years, paid a lot of taxes on it. I understand the latest practice is what I think is an obscure IRS allowance, which is a business that has employees in an unsafe area can give them transportation for a fee of charge the employee $1.50 each trip. But if that's what we're doing, I'm wondering if that's okay, if the auditors have looked at that, or if you should look at that.
We actually did look at it several years ago and came up with the method to try to go with the IRS regulations, which I believe was $3 a day per trip. Per trip.
And so that wash,
And put it on their W-2.
so that $3 a day washes,
Yeah.
because it's unsafe transportation that these people have?
But it's not unsafe, it's just any vehicle that I know of.
Okay.
If you use it,
All right.
not just safety vehicles, but any vehicle that they take home personally to use.
Okay. Thank you.
You any questions?
Council, any more questions? Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you. Okay, council. New business item B. Bo, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, unless council has more questions.
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer them,
Okay, thank you.
but.
Okay, item C, presentation of 2024 strategic planning program, scope of work by Western Piedmont Community of Government, and I believe Mr. Anthony Starr is with us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to come give you a brief update about the strategic planning process. I'm sorry that I'm here instead of Allison. An unexpected commitment came along, so you're stuck with me tonight. We wanted to just thank you for the opportunity to assist you in the strategic planning process. It's an important process to help you identify the priorities of the town. And as we facilitate a number of these retreats and types of facility and processes for local governments through the years, and one of the things I like to say often is you have limited resources, do a limited number of things. And if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority because of those limited resources. So you have to make difficult decisions as a council, as the elected representatives of your community. And so hopefully this process will help you gain insight about the residents' desires for the town, as well as helping you have a process to facilitate your own conversations and identify your own priorities. So just a few things here that you've asked us to do and that we're pleased to get underway with. We're going to facilitate this strategic planning process for you over the next few months to help facilitate public input and your decision making. The public input will occur through two primary methods. One is two public input meetings that will occur January 17th and 24th at the Old Block School from 6 to 7:30. During that public input session, for which it will be advertised widely to give the public a chance to come and participate. During that session, we'll have facilitated conversations with the residents that show up to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or what is traditionally referred to as a SWOT analysis. And this will identify the things that they see that require your attention in the community. We'll also gain important public input through the process by using a mail and electronic survey. Surveys will be sent through the mail to all in-town utility customers, probably in the next few days. The same survey will be available online, and that survey will remain open and available to respond through the end of January. We'll promote that, as I mentioned before, on your social media with the assistance of your town staff and any other means that seem a good way to, and your website is a way to get out the word to the public. A few things about those survey questions. We asked for some of your input about the types of topics that should be addressed in the survey, and the survey instrument has been drafted. It will include questions like what is on your screen. How would you rate Valdese on the following? It gives them a scale of how to rate things from excellent to poor to they don't know, and talks about like as a place to live, how would they rate that? Place to raise a family, to work, retire, own a business, etc. They'll also have a question about how they would rate Valdese on the following quality of life characteristics, which include their feeling of safety, cost of living, housing affordability, employment opportunities, diversity of business and services, arts and culture activities and festivals, parks and open spaces, education, health and wellness. It'll also have them identify what those top 3 quality of life characteristics they would like to see improved upon and why. So they'll identify those top 3 things, and then they'll get a chance to explain why they selected their top 3 responses in that question. There'll also be a question about town governance and services, and whether they're very satisfied, dissatisfied, to neutral, to very dissatisfied, or they don't know. And that includes things like the value of services for taxes you pay, and the quality of town services, customer service, effectiveness effectiveness of town communication and public input opportunities, and also the confidence they have in the government and acting in the best interest of the town. There's a question about how you would rate your satisfaction for services or amenities provided. And that includes a variety of town departments and programs you see there. I'm not going to read each of those to you, but it ranges from police and fire, public safety, to development, to Main Street, and small businesses, housing, and water distribution, and a variety of other services. It'll also ask them to identify the top 3 services the town should improve upon and why. And again, same as questions before. We try to keep the questions in a neutral, written in a neutral manner, but in a manner that's easy for them to understand so that you get consistent, another angle to how you should make decisions in governance. And then there's just an open-ended question there that they can fill in and write text in the response about what their thoughts are to feedback on anything related to town services, quality of life, and the future of Valdese that wasn't already asked in the survey. The open-ended question for them to answer. And then there's a demographic question asking about them, who they are, to include in the survey so that we can show you the results by certain categories at the end of the day. After we've done that survey process and those public input process, we'll come back to the council and you'll have a meeting in February to conduct a work session where you will go through a similar discussion, where I'll facilitate that for you, ask you what things are going well, what things need improvement, what are the opportunities for the town, and see what you identify are those priorities. We'll also, at the beginning of that meeting, review the public input that has been taken and received. We'll summarize the information, we'll give you statistical reports about that information, and give you the findings so that you can take that into consideration as you make your decisions as the governing board. And then you'll use all that information. I'll help you identify the goals that you should have in the coming years, and that will give instruction to your staff about how to prepare the budget, how to conduct their work, and give you, I guess, consensus about the top priorities for you as the town council that you should be working on and things that you should be investing in. That's the process in a nutshell. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Council?
Just one question. Somebody asked me this. Will merchants and business owners be able to participate in this?
It will be, yes. It'll be mailed to every utility customer, and then it will also be online, so they'll be able to respond in either fashion.
Anthony, what is your prior experience with the return rate on these surveys? We want every citizen to fill this out, complete it. We want to hear from all of our stakeholders. I mean, I hope that we have a great participation with this survey, because this is going to help us formulate what our priorities are with our budget going forward. Any idea on how to improve that return? I noticed that Albemarle, with a previous example, had like a gift card giveaway. It'd be nice to do something like that. What type of return rate generally do we see?
I think the gift card return can be done, but the problem with that is sometimes you have to set up a system where you preserve anonymity of the survey, and that's difficult when you do rewards like that sometimes. I think written surveys, let me say this, early in my career they were very common. We didn't have online surveys often. And I would say we don't do written surveys as often, but it's certainly value in doing it because certain parts of our population are less computer savvy and feel more comfortable with a paper survey. And so you can reach a different part of the population, say, by doing a paper survey. But back then, I would say the average for a paper survey is 10 to 15%. It's considered good. So don't expect to get half of them returned. That's just not going to happen. I would say in terms of publicizing and improving the response is simply getting you and staff to activate your own networks in terms of the people you interact with. You can put it out on your social media, you can have it on your website, perhaps there's a press release you put out as well, and it gets in the newspaper. But everyone talking about it with their friends and people in your social networks will be the strongest measure to enact to get a strong response to the survey.
Just one more comment. I think we ought to challenge citizens of Valdese. We had a record turnout at the election this year. Almost 1,200 people voted. That's more than the number of people voted in Morganton for the mayor. So if we could get 1,200 people to vote, all we gotta do is get 1,200 people to respond to this survey, and we're gonna have 30% return.
I think
Is that a record, right?
it's a great chance for us as a council to really interact with the public, which is something we're supposed to be doing anyway. So it's a good chance for us to get out there, knock on doors, or whatever we need to do. If you know your neighbors, go up to them and say, hey, did you get your survey yet? Have you filled it out? And definitely the social media. When will that be available so we can push that?
So our goal is to send that survey out this week, plus whatever the mailing time is, and I hesitate to give.
So our
an estimate
first
on that.
meeting
It'd be,
is-
I would assume next week or the following week, somewhere.
So the first meeting is next week, is that the 17th?
Yeah, the 17th. So we'll
Okay.
be putting that information out this week about public
Okay.
input.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody doesn't say, hey, we didn't have enough time to hear about that meeting, okay.
We were trying to meet the
Gotcha.
timeline that you established to get
Gotcha,
this
okay.
input so you could make key decisions in your budget format.
Gotcha.
I didn't get a chance to look at the specific wording. Was it directed to some of the concerns we've had? I know council had the opportunity to give input. We wanted, the citizens to have an opportunity to give input regarding the public safety building and other issues, the pool. So I'm sure that was, we focused on that.
It is not a question about that specific, those two specific things. It does have things about recreation and public safety, like police and fire, generally. And then there's open-ended responses where people will be able to write whatever they feel like they want to write about. We can give you an electronic copy of all those responses at the end of the day. And then what we'll do for the electronic things, we can do we can show you what words appear most often in the electronic responses and things like that.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council, next item under new business is D, status report of Rock School renovation, presented by Mark Seeley, the architect.
Real quick, Mayor and Council, I want to introduce Mark Seeley. He's with SGA Northwest Design, and he's been helping us with the Rock School architecture portion of the project. We also have Ben Willis with us here from the college, so if you have any questions about the grant portion of the project, he'll be happy to help. And me as well.
Thank you, Marcia. Mayor, council members, and members of the public, appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and give you a quick overview of where we are on the project, give you a quick overview of the scope of the project for those that may not be familiar with all the work that is intended here, and then we'll give you an update on where we are currently on the project. Right now, the scope of the work, the bulk of the scope of the work right now is contained in the lobby front areas of the building, where we're looking to expand, improve the lobby, expand restroom capabilities in the building, and then provide improved accessibility access into the building, into the lobby, and therefore into the auditorium. Just a couple of quick views of what the auditorium or lobby space looks like now. This will be removing the little ticket booth over in the corner. I'll show that over here, and then some of the existing little single-use toilets will be coming out, and we'll be adding larger gang toilets, which I'll go into in a moment, show a little more detail. Also, the access from right now, as you know, there's an elevator in there. The accessibility access from the building is from the side into the elevator. You come up to a corridor, and then you're kind of, where do I go from here? I can go into the auditorium directly, but in order to get to the lobby, you have to go through the director's office at this point. So part of this renovation will be improving that access via not just a doorway, but an opening, essentially creates a separate corridor where the director's office is now to bring you into the lobby, and there'll be a different ticket configuration there. From there, have access to the restrooms, and then into the auditorium itself. A few other minor things that we are trying to address in the building too, such as this lower exit in the building. There's some minor damage to the door, an exit door that doesn't really work properly, so we are going to be replacing and repairing that so that egress is maintained properly from the building. On the second floor also, or first floor, in the auditorium itself, we're looking at redoing the finishes, replacing the seating, carpet, VCT, those sorts of things, painting, and also the lighting that's in there. We're going to be replacing the lighting. There's a lot of fixtures in there that aren't functioning and operating right now, so we're going to be replacing all the house lighting, not the theatrical lighting, but just the house lighting. There's a picture of the lobby or the auditorium there. You can see a lot of lighting that's not functional right now. And then on the, also on that same floor, we're looking at improving, providing accessible access to the stage, as right now there's no way accessible to that. We're going to be doing that by means of adding a lift to one side of the stage. And then we're also redoing the restroom finishes. There's two small toilet areas in the corridor to the side of the auditorium just to match and bring those up to date with the new restroom renovations up front. And this shows you where the lift is going to go backstage to the side of the stage, and then one of the restrooms that will be upgraded. Also on that floor, we're looking at renovating, providing a new community room, means of adding a wall and a door from the corridor into it, and then the two training rooms have some minor improvements in there, which basically consists of upgrading finishes, and adding some additional millwork and reworking some plumbing that's in those rooms. Those two training rooms. And then on the upper floor, which is right now being used as storage space, looking at removing all the storage items that are up in there and converting that to an open office area, adding a small enclosed office / break room, and then also two toilets being added up there as well to serve those two areas, which again provide additional revenue for the program. There'll also be new lighting and HVAC added to those spaces, which currently there's really not any up there. And then just a view of what those two spaces look like now. It's pretty cluttered and clustered. So back to the predominant scope of the work is in the front area of the lobby. This is just showing what the new revised plan would look like. This is the existing plan showing the existing toilets coming out, the ticket booth coming out, and then the director's office here, which will now, by adding an opening from that corridor, people will be able to access the elevator, come through here, and then into the lobby. A new ticket window will be added at the side of the lobby into the director's office. The new wall there to separate that corridor space from the director's office. And then over here, the two gang toilets will be added here, a new concession area, and then relocating the current janitor's closet to a different location in that space. So that's pretty much the main scope of the work that we're doing. Currently where we are right now, the project is out for bids. We had a mandatory pre-bid a couple weeks ago, several weeks ago. We're looking at receiving bids January 23rd. Looking at reviewing those bids by the 25th. I know you've got a council meeting on February 5th, which I think would then be brought here and presented to you for approval to move forward. Hopefully the notice to proceed by March 1st, and then construction completed by mid to late summer. Right now, good news, if you would call it good news, we have a budget or an estimate which was done late in the fall, came in at 1.2 million, which is over the budget that you have. We discussed that with everyone, and we really didn't want to lose the scope. The scope that was in there was scope that was felt to be needed, but we knew we couldn't bid that whole thing out, in such a manner that it would come in within the budget. So what we did was we broke out several alternates. So we have a base bid situation, and then 3 different alternates to add on top of that to see just how far we can go with the project. So the intent is that hopefully that base bid would come in within the budget, and then the other alternates, either if additional funding were to be available, it could be accepted, or if numbers did come in good, maybe some of those could be accepted as well. And so just a quick brief overview. Any questions? I'd be glad to entertain those now.
Council. Sorry.
How many questions do I have?
All of them.
The original project scope had replacement of the auditorium seating and the ADA accessible seating area That was number 2 item. My guess is that may have been the most expensive item in the proposal initially in the scope. And I notice that's now listed as an alternate auditorium seating. Does this 1.2 million include auditorium seating?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
That budget, or that estimate number was for the entire project, yes.
All right, so let me get down to really the nut of this. When the council approved this program on December 5th, 2022, it was approved, scoped at $707,200 for the construction. And the contract you signed was, the RFQ that you responded to stated that $850,000 total, including paying you and some contingency. How do you spend a year on a project that you contracted to bring in at $850,000 total, including your own compensation, and run that $707,000 construction cost up to $1.2 million and a quarter? That's a $500,000 overrun. Where does that come from?
Well, they came from the fact that the budget and the scope weren't perfectly in alignment. The scope.
I'm sorry, it was what?
The budget and the scope weren't perfectly aligned at the point.
What do you mean they weren't aligned?
Well, we hadn't done estimates of the scope to create the budget.
The scope was stated in your RFQ that you responded to, and it was $707,000 construction costs.
Well,
You're proposing something here that's $500,000 more than that. This isn't funny money.
no.
This is tax money that came from the state, $850,000 for the town, and then we had another $120,000 that came up, half of that by donations by a family. But I've never seen this kind of thing where a contractor, an architect hired to bring in a project at $700,000 would come back and say, well, it's going to be $500,000 more than that.
That's why we're providing the alternates.
Pardon?
That's why we're providing the alternates to the project, because at the time when we contracted for this, there was a scope that was defined by the council, the group, the users, the committee, whoever it would be at that time, and the budget was already set. We weren't given a scope to price and then give you the number of what it was going to cost. We were given a scope and the budget. As we designed it and then priced it, those numbers were higher than the actual budget that was provided would attain.
How much was in the budget?
Well, the budget was $750,000 or $800,000.
Right.
But that, I don't know what that number was based on. We did not create that number.
Well, but no, but you responded to a request for proposals to design this thing for $850,000, and you come in with $500,000 over that.
We contracted to provide the scope that was requested. And there are several other items in that original scope that have since come out because it couldn't be afforded. Prices have gone up over the last couple of years.
Let me take a break. Let somebody else ask a question. I'm just so blown away by this. I can't imagine it. I mean, I just cannot imagine how this would happen.
I'm not sure I know how to answer your question. To be honest with you. We did not.
Well, let me ask you, let me put it one more way. I'm going to buy a new car. I have $20,000 I've saved up for a new car. I go to a car salesman and say, I have $20,000. Can you find me a car for that? He either does or he says no. But
if I use that analogy, that it's not quite apples to apples. It would be like if you came to me with $20,000 to buy a car and then said, well, this is what I want in the car. And the car.
Who said what they want in it? What they want in it is that request for proposal you responded to.
But the scope, again, we don't know the cost on day one because we have not designed the car, right?
Look, I've built a couple commercial buildings. I renovated a couple bigger than that. And the architects worked within our budget. We had a certain amount of money. It was just bother anybody else?
Yeah.
Mr. Questions. Mr. Seeley, do you have an opinion? $850,000 of this was a rural transformation grant, so we received this from, I guess, the state. So do you have an opinion on what can be done? Of course, we haven't received any bids back yet, so we don't know. We have no idea what the cost is going to be of these alternate, bids. So do you have of course, right now, do you have an opinion on what could be accomplished at $850,000 if the council decided, hey, we're not going to spend more than X amount of dollars?
Right, that's why we broke the scope down to that base bid plus the alternates to accommodate that.
So, of course, and we'll have the bids returned by January
23rd.
23rd, okay. So then we can make a final analysis as council, what our priorities are with this, with this facility. We want to preserve, see, the Old Rock School, we are blessed to have such a wonderful facility. And, I'm excited about spending $850,000 of, and I'm grateful that, was it Marissa that put together this grant? Thank you, Marissa, for putting together this grant and getting Valdese $850,000. Does Marissa have an opinion on, can she give us some historical perspective on this, how this came about, and maybe give her opinion on, I know the seating, I heard somebody say something about maybe doing a fundraiser for the seating, so that would save us $200,000.
Several portions of it. So one thing to note is when you do the grant application, you have to have a quote in hand. So our preliminary quote came in at $900,000 to do the original scope that Mr. Harvey is pointing out. So that was what we were going with. That's where we thought we would be well in line with the budget based on that cost estimate. And it was a valid cost estimate. We had contractors come in with subs, they did tours after tour, looking at the building in depth. So we did do our homework on that portion of it. In regards to the building, fundraisers, yes, there are opportunities for fundraisers, but we have to see where they come in at before we know what we're fundraising for and what amount is there. One other thing to note is we found out after the fact that the grant funds cannot be used for the auditorium seating. They cannot. So that's $200,000 of the project that we have to figure out, do we do this or do we not? So that's where that stems from. So does that help clarify a little bit?
Sure. That's good. So we can't use any of the grant funding for seating?
No.
Okay.
So the idea
How did we get there where we would go on with this thing? Seating is number one thing on the proposal, and we didn't know when we got the grant that we couldn't use it for seating?
Mr. Harvey, it wasn't number one on the proposal, because what we had to do was to craft this project so that we would be awarded the grant funding. So to be awarded the grant funding, top priority for the project was to renovate underutilized spaces, to turn them into revenue generators, and to also improve accessibility, ADA accessibility for the building. So those were the top priorities.
How handicapped people get to the third floor?
They don't. Those are for office space. It's not for public use.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking for a motion here that we can stall this thing off and have it looked at again and brought back within the funds that we have available. I guess we could wait until the next meeting and then shoot it down after we get the bids in. But we started this thing out, and this hasn't, excuse me. May I talk for a couple minutes? This thing started out, it was only, the information was provided to the public only one time, and that was in the minutes of the December 5th meeting. The town has never heard about it since then. No one has reviewed the agendas or minutes and known anything about this project, except we knew going in, we were going to replace the auditorium seating, and we knew we had $850,000 from the state, and then we found out in October that we got another $120,000. So we had $970,000. But the scope is just flipped on us, and if we if putting $200,000 worth of seats in here can't be covered by this grant, why are we doing it? Who's gonna pump up $200,000? So that's hanging out there. It's an unanswered question.
Okay, let me ask this. The base bid. The base bid meets the requirements of the grant. Is that?
Yes.
That's, base bid meets the requirements of the grant. The alternate bids, should we choose to go that route, the alternate bids would cover the auditorium, the stage toilets, that's alternate one. Alternate 1A would cover the auditorium seats. So we may not choose to do the auditorium seats. If the council chose to designate additional funding for the seats, then that could be done. But right now, the main thing, our main concern is the base bid that meets the requirements of the grant. Is that a fair statement?
And we need that office space on the 3rd floor that you have to walk up to. Handicapped people can't use it, but we're gonna have office space up there. We need that more than we need auditorium seats?
You can't use the grant money for auditorium seats.
I understand that.
So if we
I'm asking how we meet ADA compliance with offices on the 3rd floor.
The offices on the 3rd floor will be used where they don't need, the user will not need like foot traffic to them. I have a list of different businesses, being Main Street Director, who have come to me. There was one that was a cosmetic dentist that had 6 people that needed an office space. I had another one contact me today that wanted 5 or 6 different people to be in just an office where they can work on computers. So these kind of uses do lend themselves to that 3rd floor area. So that's where that stems from. There is a list of, there is definitely a need for office space in downtown for smaller businesses.
Are there any limits on, time limits on a grant? Because most of them do
Yes.
have time limits.
Yes, this one is 3 years and we've already turned in our project timeline. The other thing, if this project is tabled, you're costing, it's gonna cost revenue. We're gonna lose revenue. I'm gonna have to cancel, say you bump it a month, then we're looking at canceling all of the events that are in August. So when you do that, we can do it if that's what council chooses to do.
Why would you cancel events?
Because we can't have events in the auditorium if there's not seating or construction. So we would have to clear the calendar. There's a lot of moving pieces with this project, a lot of moving pieces.
A prime example of that is we had to move the election process from the Rock School.
Rotary, countless other little, small events, major events. The Girl Scouts was having their state conference there at the Rock School, and we had to move that to accommodate the construction timeline.
I think it would be irresponsible for, this is my opinion, for the council to throw away $850,000, now 900 something. It would be absurd for us to just say bye-bye to this rural transformation grant. Worst case scenario is let's spend at least the money that has been given by the state, because it's going to go to another municipality if we don't spend this. And then we can make a decision as council. Do we want to take money out of our fund balance to fix the seats or whatever, fix the lighting on the stage? I just think it would be irresponsible for us to table this issue. That'd be a shame. That would be a shame.
Well, nobody suggested tabling it, but how fast do we have to use this money to avoid losing it?
3 years. We were awarded
3
it
years?
in 2022. Yes.
By when?
We were awarded it in 2022, so 3 years.
Okay.
The thing is, too, can I add one comment? Going back to the grant project itself, I feel like that it's staff's due diligence to present to you options that will generate revenue through these facilities. So the seats, yes, the seats are an option. Yeah, they're $200,000 that we don't have. So there are other ideas for how we can raise portions of that. But like I said, those ideas take time. So what my goal was, I think what Mark and Ben, all of us, Bo, talked about,
was to put this out there so that council can make an informed decision on if it's cost effective to remove the seats to replace the flooring, but then put old seats back in the auditorium. So we were trying to show council the options that are available, and that's why you have the alternates.
Just one more question. Has anyone connected with the town on the town's behalf with construction or contractor experience reviewed any of this process? Do you know, Mr. Mayor?
No, sir, but I would think that's why we hire competent people to do the work. And I wish I knew how to explain this to you, and it's not your fault, it's mine, okay? Our department heads are familiar with their own operations. They're not construction experts by no means, I don't imply that. But we attempt to hire folks such as our architect, and such as a good example was the engineer that looked at the public safety building. Those are the folks whose opinion we follow and count on to lead us in the right direction. We do not have on staff a construction engineer, if that's what you're asking. I'm trying to answer your question.
But we have a lot of them living in town.
Yes, sir, and we have to pay them.
No, I don't think so. I think we have just approved the facilities review. We've approved a facilities review board, and I think the kind of people that we could recruit to serve on a facilities review board would be the kind of people that you'd want to review the plans for the contracts that you're getting to build an $850,000 house.
I'm gonna voice a personal opinion, and it's not derogatory. This is just the way I look at things. And I'm not saying it's perfect. Government functions, and again, I'm not being derogatory. Government functions in a different manner than corporations.
Of course.
And I'm not, like I said, I wasn't being derogatory. And it's just, there's a difference. I had to apologize to our interim town manager in a certain way, because he come up to me and he said, "You called me stupid." I said, "Yes, sir, I did. I called you stupid for doing your job for $1." I said, "I wouldn't do that." My point being, I just don't feel like we're gonna get folks to work for nothing to do this kind of work when we hire architects and consultants to already do that type of work.
Yeah, but somebody needs to keep an eye on it. Let's move on.
Council, move further. Okay. Thank you, folks. Okay, item E, under new business, status report on engineering services contract for water plant upgrades, RJ and Greg Patton.
Mayor and council, I'm here to introduce R.J. Moses of McGill and Associates. McGill and Associates represent the town of Valdese in a much, well, not much needed, but a needed project where we got some free money, and we're gonna take advantage of that. And it leads to a second bigger project where we'll be interconnecting with Valdese with the Lenore for resiliency in the future. The project that we're doing at the water plant is upgrading the water plant. Approximately $7 million worth. We don't know what the total cost will be. We hope to keep it under that. That's the plan. But we won't know when we go to bids. And again, we'll do the same thing. We'll have base bids, alternate bids. The base bids are what we know we can afford, and then the alternates you look at, do you want to do this or not? And then you decide not to, or you do. But at this time, I'll introduce RJ, and I'll take you.
Okay, confirm this. These upgrades are part of the Valdese Lenore interconnect.
Our money's just paying for the upgrade, correct? That's correct.
Yeah.
Lenore is part of the
Right.
interconnection
Exactly.
with their funds. That's why I want to make sure, but it is part of a bigger project.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, RJ.
All right, there we go. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening. We are here to talk about the water treatment plant upgrades project. You've heard a number of things about the water this evening that I'm reflecting back on my days in Swim West and what I heard somebody talking about earlier. I think sometimes my wife still drags me to the pool to swim with her and reminds me that I may never have graduated from the rock status, the different tiers of swimming. But we don't swim at the water treatment plant, thankfully. We use that plant to produce the clean water that the town pumps into the distribution system and then serves a large portion of Burke County. So with that, the project, I will kind of give you an overview, and I'll try to be as quick as I can. I know we're long in the tooth here this evening, but what you see there in front of you is a cover page and the first page of the funding request form that was submitted to NCDEQ in response to a solicitation that they provided to the town. And all of that is based upon the session law funding appropriation that was awarded to the town this past October, I believe it was, by the North Carolina General Assembly. And you'll see there a total project budget for that project of $7 million. And so this process is one that will include replacing the raw water intake pumps, piping and valves in that raw water pump station. And we'll go into a little more detail about each of those pieces of the process in a few minutes. It also includes replacing equipment and making modifications to the flash mix basins at the treatment plant. It includes modifications to the flocculation basins and also replacement of flocculator equipment. And then it includes improvements to the sedimentation basin, and also includes filter improvements and the addition of an air shower backwash system in the filters themselves. And then it also includes some chemical feed system improvements, and also then includes electrical work that's necessary to make all of that new equipment function the way it's supposed to. And then there likely will be some minor site work in various parts of the project where land disturbance right outside the buildings may be necessary. So you see there a picture. This is an existing picture from about 2-3 weeks ago, just before Christmas, where our crews were out there starting to get their feet wet, so to speak, in this process. And that's an aerial drone photo of your water treatment facility. The only thing you can't see in that photo is off down to the right, down right next to the lake, is going to be where your raw water pump station sits. And we'll have some more directed photos of that in just a moment. But the main thing you see there is the blue-green water hue there of all the water that's accumulated at that point in time in the sedimentation basins. And so you'll see other pieces of that process as we move through, but basically the water comes from the lake up the hill to these basins at the top of the hill. They start the process of treatment and purification, and then they make their way through the rest of the process, and finally get stored in the round circular tanks that you can kind of see in the back of the photo there behind the building. And then there's one more that you can see the shadow a bit off to the left. But as picturesque opportunities go, this is one of the better ones for a water treatment plant. So this is a scan of one of the plan sheets that we worked to acquire with town staff, some of the old record files that the project maintains. This is your raw water pump station. It's an engineering drawing from, I think it was 1964, when this pump station was originally designed, and then we would assume built shortly thereafter. And this shows the method of pumping apparatus, the number of pumps that were installed, and you can actually see there 2 small pumps in that photo on the bottom left, and 2 larger pumps. You do still have a ranging number of sizes of pumps, but those pumps are maybe a little different today than they were early in the 1960s. There's a couple of photos, or a photo of several of those pumps. Right now, you've got 4 main raw water pumps, and those range in size from 200 horsepower up to 600 horsepower, 2 MGD up to 12 MGD. And the reason for that different sizing of those pumps is this is a plant rated for 12 MGD, but you don't always need to be operating at 12 MGD. Think of it as the tach in your car. You don't want to ride down the highway in first gear at 7,000 RPM. The engine won't make it very long. So you've got different gears that can run at different speeds and different production rates as your demand for the water system and the water plant changes. And sorry, to back up there, the replacement, as we noted in the slide on the scope of things, the replacement here would be to replace the motors and the pump equipment of all of those 4 pumps in this project scope. As that water then is pumped up the hill, it comes up and into that basin in the picture on the left. It's got the red box drawn around it. That's going to be your flash mixing basin, where your first set of coagulant aiding, settlement aiding chemicals are added to the raw water as it comes up the hill. It gets a real vigorous, quick mix there, and what you're trying to do is introduce that coagulant to help settle out, create heavy specific gravity for organics and other elements in the water so that they'll begin to settle out and fall in stages. So you get that flash mix, the water moves to the left or from the top of that picture down towards the bottom left, the way that arrow is pointing, and that's making its way through the flocculation basins, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So this is the same basic picture. I'll flip back real quick. Same structure, I should say, but the picture is oriented just a little bit different to help you see more of the process. So just up and off to the left is that flash mixing basin, and then you see the area now boxed in red there. That's where your flocculation begins to take place. And what that's trying to do is continue to mix the flash mixing basins and equipment. There are some concrete, some structural changes that we're going to make to those basins, and then there are also some changes that we'll be making to the flocculation basins as well. And all of those changes, all of those pieces of equipment, those mixers in both of those areas will be included to be replaced in the project. So then one thing of note with your sedimentation basins is that there is a newer modern standard, if you will, for the geometry of that sedimentation basin and how that basin is intended to be configured. Your current sedimentation basin being built in the 1960s doesn't follow that standard. And so your basins are actually a little bit short compared to what they would be if they were built brand new today. And one way that we overcome that is by adding what we call tube settlers to these basins. And so they sit within that sedimentation basin and basically force the direction of flow for the water to not only just move across the basin, but to move to the bottom of the basin and then up through these tube settlers. So it makes it more efficient in capturing sediment and other impurities to settle out. Adding those tube settlers is something that is new to your sedimentation basins. You don't have that now. Then once everything makes its way through the sedimentation basins, all of that flow spills through those weirs and then is piped into the dual media filter basins that are within some of the roof structure of the plant. And you can see an example, one of those filters there. These are dual media, meaning they are a mixture of gravels and then sands of varying grain distribution sizes, all again aimed at the idea of removing impurities. The difference in these filtration basins and the sedimentation basins is sedimentation basins, we were trying to get sediment out to the bottom, we were trying to get flow up, clean water to the top. Now we're going to reverse that flow, push the cleaner water through the sand filters, down through the bottom and onto another process. And the sand filters themselves, these dual media filters, will trap a lot of that sediment that made its way through the sedimentation basin. So think of this particular element of the treatment process as a lot like your Brita filter that you buy and you put in your pitcher that goes in your refrigerator, or the filtration system that goes into your refrigerator. This is where that last bit of filtration happens to remove, physically, to remove impurities from the system. This process, though, because this filter is too large to just throw away every 3 months, this process has to be backwashed from time to time. Typically, a filter will run somewhere on the order of about 96 hours. And so once that filter hits its run time, it's time for the operators to start a backwash cycle. So right now, your system has an antiquated process and system that's called surface sweeps, which basically means there's several little nozzles on large arms, about 8 foot diameter, or 8 foot long, that spin and just spray high pressure water on the top of that filter media. And then there's a backwash process to force water back that way. All of that waste material washes up out of those filters into those troughs that you can just barely see under the water there. And then all of that spills away and goes to waste, back to the wastewater treatment plant. That process is still largely the same with the new air scour system that we're proposing for this project, but the air scour system is much more efficient in the way that it delivers that backwash process. It gets more of that pollutant load out of the filters, and so that they have better run times, last longer, produce better quality water, all three of those objectives. As part of this process too, though, that air scour system will be new, but as part of this process, that filter media that's all within that basin will be replaced as we work in those filters and refresh them. You got there a photo of the control console for those filters. Those are all still more traditional style consoles. They do have electrical components, so however, and they will have to be modified somewhat to accommodate the new air scour systems. And you got here a section view of that dual media filter. This is actually an example from another project that we worked on a couple of years ago. This shows you a good example of those hatched out, the diagonal hatch lines and that piping that you see there. That's the old surface sweep system that will go away, and the air scour grid is going to take its place. The blue line you've got in that photo there is dashed to kind of signify where your water level would normally be. And then you've got a couple of those arrows there to show you how the water flow makes its way down through the different layers of the media, and then out to the plenum in the bottom of the filters and on the final disinfection. Then you've also got in this a few views of the new air scour system. I think the highlights of that would be you see some stainless steel piping that comes through into those basins, and you see a lot of those air system troughs and the grid with the different modules that lie in there, and basically it winds up being a huge network. Think of it as a large gridded out system with a lot of little finger-sized air piping. And those have really fine screens in them that all then make really diffuse air bubbles that all then make their way out into the media and help in that backwash process. And so it really does look like a scour, if you will, of scouring out the impurities back out of those filters. And then when you're done with the backwash process, the air cuts off and the media settles back down, and then the filter will be ready to be placed back into service. There's a photo of the main air piping coming into the basin. You see some of the hoses, still stainless steel. Everything in this case needs to be stainless for corrosion purposes, obviously steel and water. And then you've got the air grids that you can see there where they lie right on the top of the bed of the overall schedule. I do expect that in this case, there are a couple of those early milestones that we can skip past because in this case, the state legislature said, give Valdese $7 million to improve their water plant for sales of water to them. So the fact that that was legislated to the town means that the process gets a little bit simpler. So that first step of the process was the funding request letter. And that was the first slide that I showed you that had the cover and then the first page of the application. That's where we reminded the EWI staff that the town wanted to use $7 million of their appropriation. And that submission was sent in on the 17th of November. So now with that in their hands, we're awaiting the DWI group's concurrence. They will respond with a letter of intent to fund that will notify the town that the project elements are eligible. And eligible in this case simply means it has to be something that could have been built with the state the state revolving fund type projects. So what does that mean? That means you have to spend the money on water or sewer infrastructure. And in this case, because it was a water plant upgrade named in the state budget, as long as we're doing work within the water plant, everything should be okay. That letter of intent to fund, that LOIF acronym, I'll use that again in a minute, but we anticipate getting that LOIF back from the state in the first quarter of 2024. So then with all that in mind, where are we today? The funding request, as I've mentioned, has been submitted, that project scoping established. We've made a site visit and begun records review, reviewing some of those historic plans, historic calculations, talking in initial conversations with operators about the current plant conditions and operations, how much water they're making today, what chemicals they're using today, what concentrations they're using today. All of those things will become important as we move further along. But we don't want to get too far ahead of the LOIF, so we have to wait on their approval from DWI before we get too deep. And then right now we are also working with some of those survey files and photos and the old record drawings to begin preparing some of the base drawings that we know will be valid no matter what that LOIF response is from the state. So then steps after that. First and foremost, we won't be able to establish milestones or dates for any of those tasks until we see that letter of intent to fund, because it will also prescribe to the town what that schedule needs to look like. It is typically, like I say, a process that, in a full award project, could take up to 2 years to do that LOIF and all the milestones. In this case, again, though, we have to make it move a little quicker. After we receive that and prepare those base drawings, we'll continue by following up with site visits, taking measurements of all of these various pieces of the process, making additional staff interviews, move on to equipment selections and developing budgets requested from those manufacturers. And so just to touch on a point from earlier this evening, that's the point in time where we approach manufacturers of the different pieces of equipment. And we
Town been paid for the work up till this point just on this contract?
On this contract, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
And when do you think that will start? Will that start sometime after the DWI, is it DWI, is that really what it is? When the funds are released, is that when it's going to start?
They will issue the town the letter of intent to fund, that LOIF, and that's what we expect in the first quarter. Once we see that.
So there's nothing, so you're not really working on this contract at this particular time, right?
We have not started full steam.
Okay, that's all I'm doing. Okay.
And so as we really get into that full steam, once we see that approval and that milestone schedule from them that tells us here's when DWI wants to see plans back, we'll be working towards all of those items. Technical specifications, design drawings, design calculations, and all that information has to be prepared and submitted to DWI. They'll then review that for about 3 months, send it back to us with any comments. We work through resolution of any of their comments, and then once we have their approval, permitting gets with the state public water supply group also gets included, and then once we finally get that approval in hand, then we move on to that bidding phase of our services, whereby we assist the town in soliciting bids from utility contractors to come actually build the work. And then, of course, as normal, the town council will get a chance to see those bids and make a decision on awards.
That have been allotted to us, and we're sitting there looking at this project and thinking, we don't have the money in our fund balance to really complete the project. I'm just
Certainly, yes.
asking a question.
So, yeah, I think the answer to that is the construction market is largely undetermined at this point in time. COVID put a major hurting on delivery schedules, supply chain issues. We all know about all the different industries that shut down during COVID, and that's created a huge backlog. And it also kind of gave every manufacturer of every piece of equipment the opportunity to elevate their prices to try to make up for 6-8 months of lost revenue. And so that's something that is a concern. Now, I'll tell you that as we were working with the state reps, Blackwell and Stetson Hall, we tried hard to elevate those costs at that point in time to account for at least some of it. If I was going to stand here in front of you and tell you that in spring of 2023 that I could crystal ball and tell you what this project was going to cost exactly in 2025 or after, I've been lying. So I think it's worth noting that that's something that we don't have control over, and there is always the hope that the economy slows down a bit and the bid market comes back down some. But I can tell you without a doubt that anytime you get inside the gates of a water plant or wastewater treatment plant, projects get very expensive. So we've tried to account for that. I think with our process, we will renew that estimate at certain intervals along the way as we start getting some of those manufacturer quotes back. We'll do our best to make sure that we are bringing those costs back to the town so it's not a surprise on the bid day.
Because this is an all or nothing project, right? I mean, you can't do this partially.
Well, there would be the opportunity if we get further along in this process and see that the bids or estimates at that point are running high, there would be an opportunity maybe to talk about some value engineering or some bid alternates, similar strategy, if you will, to what was discussed earlier. Again, every effort will be made to include everything that we can, but if we see that the market's just trending up faster than we can catch up, maybe a discussion we have to have.
I'm sorry, just one more question.
Sir?
Can we go back to the state and ask for additional funding for this project in the event inflation?
I would like to point out that we asked for more money than we received to start with. So not we're unappreciative, but yes, we always try to ask for a little bit more than what we think we need. If the costs for this run over the funding available, then at that point in time it would take either a competitive funding application with DWI to bridge the gap or another.
It's fine. You're gonna be here longer than I am, so.
Do they not give you an audio feed over here? You just have to pick up off of it. Looks like it'd be easy to run an audio where you can go directly into that. I listen to it, I'm like, if they don't talk in the mic, you can't hear them. I mean, I know it's not your fault, it's just, they need to give you the money to let you come in here and run the wires that you need to do it. Oh, is it really? Oh, okay. just about have to have an extra board, exit board that you can come out of with a, I don't remember what you call it. Yeah, like, kind of like a game, game card or whatever. They came in, let's live stream the meeting. Nobody thought about, oh, yeah, equipment.
Let's say that we're signing, have we
You've never been in trouble. Somebody at church said, "Are you staying out of trouble?" I said, "No, I jumped right in the middle of it." How you doing?
Okay, folks, let's get started. Back, please. I'm getting sussed up because there's a ball game on.
17-3, by the way.
I had that recorded.
Thank you. Okay, next item under new business is item F, consideration of amendment of town ordinance section 2-1021 and rule 32A of the Valdese Town Council Rules of Procedure. Now, I think that resolution is in your packet, council. I don't think I see a need for me to read it. If anyone has questions or comments, please, now's the time.
I move that we adopt that resolution.
Okay, let me read this, sir, first. Okay, I ask for a motion to approve the resolution of the Town of Valdese amending the Valdese Town Council Rule 32A of the Rules of Procedure and amending Section 2-1021 of the Town of Valdese Code of Ordinances. And I'll entertain a second at this time. I'll entertain the second, council. I have a motion from Councilman Harvey.
A second.
Okay, I have a second. Are there any further discussions?
Yeah, I do have a question. I just want to read this. It says, establishment and appointment, the council or the mayor may establish and appoint members for such temporary and standing committees and boards as are needed to help carry on the work of the city government. Can council...
Consideration of amendment of Rule 4 of the Valdese Town Council Rules of Procedure. And again, folks, that is in your packet also. And if you have no further, I'll ask for a motion. Let me read this first.
Something off. Is that possible with this?
If you're asking council, so the way I read this is the final agenda will not be published until it currently is, as it currently is published, so the Friday before the Monday meeting. So even though you're publishing a preliminary draft agenda a week before, there would be chance for council to modify, add to, take away on that agenda up to the Friday before the Monday meeting.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Coming to you this evening with a sewer line replacement that we need to do. It is located there at Valdese Concrete, which is Brady Street intersection in Pineberg Avenue Southwest. There's approximately 250 feet in between the manhole located in the intersection of Brady Street and the manhole down the street there just beyond the word Pineberg to the left there. I sent out 4 documents to 4 different construction companies and had 2 to respond to us. One with Iron Mountain Construction in the amount of $46,985. And another one to Max Presswood, which is Presswood Water and Sewer, in the amount of $50,200. My recommendation with my staff is to award Iron Mountain Construction with the bid of $46,985 for the sewer line replacement on Pineberg Avenue. Any questions?
Council? Yes, sir.
How old is that sewer line?
1960s for my records.
1960. And what is this replacement in the capital improvement plan?
No, sir.
It's not. We didn't know this one was going to go.
No, sir.
Does this have anything to do with the Pine Crossing apartments being up there?
No.
They won't, the waste from that one doesn't go through this line.
The sewer from Pine Crossing Apartments has new installation lines by the contractor that built the apartments. Goes behind them and down and intersects on the Milton side.
Okay, so I'm just wondering why it's come up mid-budget year, I guess is what, instead of being in a capital improvement plan.
There's the things happen that we can't, plan for. I mean, it started having issues, started leaking, getting stoppages. We did a camera inspection. The line has fissure cracks in it. It has pieces of pipe missing because it is clay pipe, which is enabling gravel and road sediment and stuff getting inside the pipe from underground, which is causing stoppages that we're having to go and run the jet and unclog. And being from the camera system, over time, the line is supposed to be graded downhill for flow.
Anyone else? Okay. I need a motion to approve the budget amendment to transfer $46,985 from the utility fund to cover expense to replace sewer line on Pine Bar Avenue.
I make that motion.
Thank you, sir. I need a second, please.
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion? Been here too long. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Yes.
And seeing no opposed, motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you, Al. Okay. Next budget amendment. Transfer $4,930 from the general fund balance to cover an increased fees charged by the Board of Elections. Mr. White, sir.
Yeah, so this budget amendment number 6-10 covers those additional fees. We usually budget a little bit each year for this, but the way they've changed the election process to pass some more fees on our list. And so that's the reason for this amendment here.
Okay.
So in the future, we're going to have to start budgeting. Right now, we budget about $1,500 a year. We're going to have to go up to about $6,000 a year. But that's what this is. So that's what the Board of Elections sent us for that bill.
Okay. Council, any questions for Mr. White? Okay, seeing none. I ask for a motion to approve the budget amendment to transfer $4,930 from the general fund balance to cover an increased fees charged by the Board of Elections. And I'll take a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion that we transfer the money for the Board of Election expenses.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Yes.
Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you both. Okay. Next budget amendment 3, to transfer $90,700 from the general fund balance to cover the salary and taxes for the interim manager. Mr. White.
Budget amendment number 9-10. So this is what you said, salary and taxes for the interim manager. As you know, for the prior manager, we have a fund budget for that. Those funds are no longer available, and this is why we have to put more funds into the expense line to cover his expenses.
Okay. Questions?
And then, let's go through June, end of the fiscal year, is what this covers.
Was there not salary budgeted for the town manager and the rest of the fiscal year?
Correct, there was, but with the severance package that 6 months, that took that 6 months away.
So it was given away.
But we paid the severance to retirement.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, I ask for a motion to approve the budget amendment to transfer $90,700 from the general fund balance to cover the salary and taxes for the interim manager.
I move to transfer $90,700 from the general fund balance to cover the salary and taxes for the interim manager.
Okay, a second, please.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand and stating yes.
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 Okay. Those opposed, seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, council. Okay. Budget amendment number 4, to transfer $3,907 from the general fund to cover labor and materials to install cameras in the council chambers.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Budget amendment number 10-10. So this is, reached out for a few quotes. This is one that we got that was a very good price for this work. This is through Burke On-Site, which is a local company. And this covers 2 cameras, so we'll have one that will face council and another one up here that will face, or be ceiling mounted and it'll face the speaker. And then it'll be a switch box that will stream it live to YouTube.
Transfer $3,907 from the general by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Seeing none opposed, motion carries. For 12 years you were with the county, and I look forward to you being here. I'm glad you're here, and I can see us doing good things while you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, and y'all all been very kind. I really appreciate that. We have 2, 4, 5 items on the interim manager's report. Number 1, town office closed Monday, January 15th, 2024, in observance of Martin Luther King Day. Item B, Bluegrass at the Rock presents Lonesome River Band, Saturday, January 20th, 2024, at 7:30 p.m. Item C, OCP production, Disney's The Little Mermaid Junior show dates, January 26th and 27th, and February 1st and 3rd, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. and January 28th and February 4th, 2024 at 3 p.m. Visit www.oldcolonyplayers.com for more information and to purchase tickets. Item D, public forum review council meeting scheduled Monday, January 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And item E, next regular council meeting scheduled for Monday, February 5th, 2024 at 6 p.m. That concludes the report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council comments. Council. Surely somebody's got some. Yes, sir.
Well, never let a silence go silent. I do want to comment on 2 or 3 things. First of all, are there any swimmers left here? Good. David, is you the only one?
No, it's cold.
Okay, well, okay, good. We have a couple swimmers. Please understand that Heather Ward, Gary Ogle, Glenn Harvey never said close the pool, never said no bubble, never said anything about cutting any service. So, and what's ironic about this is, and this one's going to get me in trouble sometime down the road, but maybe after I'm off the council, I completely agree that the town needs a permanent indoor swimming pool. No question about it. I've been involved in construction. I wouldn't live in a bubble, and I wouldn't spend a lot of money in a bubble. And quite frankly, if a permanent structure costs $1 million instead of $500,000 for a bubble, or even $2 million, I'd want to work with that group and figure out how we can make it permanent. So we're not going to have to go through this. Should be going. And here's the really ironic thing about this whole thing. This council is inheriting some problems. The biggest problem we've inherited is one of things that should have been budgeted and should have been considered and should have been in the capital improvement plan years ago. When you buy something that's temporary like that bubble and it's got a 10-year life, you start setting aside funds to replace it. Back in 2000, you don't wait until it completely wears out and then come and say, whoops, we need a bubble. And that's a shame, but that's the way it is. And we no longer have a manager who did not put it in the capital improvement plan. It should have been in there. We have a council that in 2018, they heard a structural engineer say you need, and they heard the fire chief say, we need to shore up the public safety building to protect our year. Citizens are going to help set the priorities for the fiscal year budget that's coming up. And you heard about the plans to get your opinion and get your input to set that budget. And that's great. From July 24 going forward, there's some future things that the council needs to consider, but more importantly, the citizens need to consider. Because one of the strongest advocates you're going to have on this council that's going to say, this council shouldn't be making these decisions, it should be the citizens. The citizens need to look at a few things. And one of the ones that is on this list that I'm going to put out here is consider amending the town charter. The town mayor term was a two-year term for 80 years. And then the state legislature changed it in the year 2000 and made it a 4-year term. So now they're all 4-year terms. Is that the right number? Well, the town of Rolesville has the council and the mayor turn over every 2 years. Is that a bad idea? Well, you know what? The North Carolina legislature, both the representatives and the senators, turn over every 2 years. The United States representatives turn over every 2 years. So maybe we ought to consider doing that.
76.
And that way, for one thing, we just come out of an election that was divisive, and a lot of people thought it was divisive. I thought it was divisive, and we heard tonight that people thought it was divisive, and it was. But the problem is, it's still going on. The entire council was out campaigning for 4 or 5 months, campaigning hard and viciously. The sad thing is, 3 of them, the 3 who lost the election, and they're not up here, they were running on the record set by the entire council. The other 3 who were out there campaigning are still up here among us. So it would be kind of neat if the whole council's going to go out and campaign, they go out and campaign on their own record. So just think about that. That'll come back sometime in the fall. There's a couple zoning things that we ought to look at. You know, there's several $1 million worth of property. If you drew a circle around Valdese, draw a 1 mile circle around here, around this town hall. Well, make it 2 miles. You're going to find several $1 million of property that doesn't pay Valdese property taxes. It's in the county because historically, those families that owned that land did not participate in forming the town. So I don't know what the solution is to that. You can't mandate annexation anymore. They could ask to come in, but the thing that might annoy some citizens is somebody right across the street from you is paying exactly the same water fee you are, but they're not paying whatever your property taxes are. So that may not, I mean, if you think that's not fair, maybe there's a way to find a solution to that. And the other thing is, one of the ironies is, no council member advocated de-annexing the hospital. That was a lie. That was a twisted thing that was put out there because of a confidential memo that was sent to 8 people. If you start counting with our new manager, go right down here. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was sent to 7 people and included 8 of us. Jessica was not included. One of these 7 people gave that to an editor who went out and twisted it into something false, and tried to stir up the whole community. She contacted Rutherford College and said, what do you think? She contacted Blue Ridge Healthcare and said, what do you think? What do they think about what? About something that she made up because one of us gave her my confidential emails. That particular block of land is about 45 acres. About 3 acres belong to a family, a couple who pay taxes. They pay about $1,600 a year Valdese taxes. There's 5.1 acres that is owned by Valdese Nursing Homes Incorporated, which is the Dallas Texas corporation. Its value is $5.9 million. It pays no taxes. There's 2/10 of an acre that is owned by Burke County. That's where they have their EMS facility over there on, I think it's Campbell Street or something like that, right next to the hospital. It's worth $76,000. They don't pay any taxes. But that's good that we support the county, I guess. 38 acres belong to the Valdese General Hospital. Its value is $53.5 million. They pay no property taxes. So, but the downside is, who gets the economic benefit? Rutherford College. Who provides the fire and police support? Valdese. So, the council's not suggesting anything. We're just going to throw these out to the citizens next fall, and when we've done the surveying again, think about these things. Are there some ways that we can help spread out the economic load of what Valdese does for the region a little more fairly than just putting it on the back of all these taxpayers, that's all. And here are a couple copies, if anybody wants to grab one. And I'm sure they'll be in the minutes as well.
Okay, anyone else?
I would also like to say something. In coming into the council, there were a lot of questions I've had. And I was always taught as a child that you ask questions. People who do not allow you to ask questions just as well be Hitler. Because Hitler silenced people and said, no, you can't ask questions. I refuse to be silenced. I refuse to sit back and let things happen without questioning. Because the fact of the matter is, this whole town looks at all of us and says, we need representation. So when we come to you, it's not a vendetta. Please, let's remove that from the table. We are not on some personal vendetta to ruin Valdese. I love this town. I work hard for this town. And for people who don't know me, I feed the homeless. I feed the drug addicts. They live in my neighborhood. They come into my yard. They know they can get clothes there. They know they can get food there. So let's take that off the table too. I have a heart for this town. I want to do everything I can to make sure every citizen is taken care of. So we're not on a vendetta. We just simply want to know the answers. We're coming into this new. We haven't been on here as long as, Paul, Roxana, and the mayor. We don't know. So when we question things in these emails, it's genuinely, okay, what is this? It's not, we're shutting everything down, we're closing everything up. Every email that Mr. Harvey or Councilman Harvey has ever sent out questioning anything was not a vendetta email. It was curiosity. What is this? So please, if everybody would just take a moment, step back and breathe. Like I tell my kids all the time when they're in an argument, step back, breathe. Get to know each other. We're new, we're learning, but we all genuinely care about this town. I promise you. I've been here 23 years. I'm a youth leader at my church. I do all I can for our community. I don't know what else to say other than let's step back and realize that we all have questions. Be okay with everybody asking questions, and let's move forward together. Let's put the past behind, press forward. We're all, most of us in this room are good church-going people. And first of all, I'm just going to I'm going to have a little church right here. If you're holding a grudge against anybody in here, just know Jesus don't hear your prayers. That's biblical, okay? So if you love Jesus, some of you don't, that's fine. But the ones who do, you got to remember, if you hold a grudge against anybody in this room, you better make it right, because you ain't going to heaven. All right? That's my personal note on that. So let's make things right. Let's move forward as a town, because Valdese is important. Valdese was founded on faith, and it was founded by some amazing people. I am so happy that I get to sit in a room with these people who are kin to the people who formed this town, because it is an amazing place to live. So yes, let's move forward together and be okay with each other asking questions.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to follow the admonition of Councilwoman Ward. I'm going to ask a question. And Mr. Councilman Harvey brings this up too.
The dedication and the working together to make sure all of our events went off without a hitch, that was great. All of our events were very successful, big crowds. And also, to the fire and police department, you guys were super busy last month. And I appreciate what y'all do for us. Thank you. Okay. Council, at this time, I'm going to request a motion to go into closed session under General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney retained by the town in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the town attorney and the town council, which privilege is hereby acknowledged regarding the following: discussion of potential litigation, discussion of pending litigation, AFFF foam products, liability litigation, pending in the United States District Court, District of South Carolina. And I'll accept the motion. Go in closed session.
I'll make a motion, we go into closed session.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Yes.
Okay. No action will be taken in closed session, and as soon as our discussion is finished, we will return.
Do we have a comment on that?
Okay.
Sorry.
It's a long one. What I talked to you.
You're still here?
It's not. It's. Are
We went to Newton, to their auditorium there, and it's, it's all, same as the seats, we were, the seats are.
The way the elevators sit on the side, it's a great thing that we have an elevator.
Yeah.
But now you have to have two box offices. You have to have one outside the elevator, and you have to put one in the front lobby.
Yeah.
Because you have to catch those taking people. So creating that corridor will lead them into one location, which will work better for our use.
Makes sense.
So,
I think budget wise, I think.
Did you bring a snacker?
and that's an estimate.
I'm going on. I'll see you.
Good to see you.
Follow it up.
I was wondering if we were getting close to a record tonight.
Oh, we are, for me anyway.
But you're gonna be running, we're gonna have to be careful, we're running up the lottery fees.
Oh,
The
yeah.
longer he stays there, the more he charges. So you gotta see y'all.
Now, I'm touching on one more thing. I sent you an email. Maybe I sent it like Friday or Saturday, so you might not have got it yet. Did you check it today?
I'll check it out. She gets it.
It's hard to stay silent on common sense.
I would say you should be happy, board rate should be triple.
Oh, when I get my daughter, well, where's you at? It just went through.
They tour all over the
I'm
United States,
like-
back on tour in February.
I say never more than we give them the 2 hours. We're already in that based on like.
I would love for him to do it. I mean,
Sometimes it's the way it
if
goes.
it's, now
It's
for
just
our regular
nonsense.
Friday nights, I think I told Heather this one time, like years and years ago. If it's more balanced,
It's not a coffee shop.
it doesn't go over well. But if they do some more like dance music and I think.
You look better every time.
Oh, they do. They
Before.
work hard. They do.
Yeah, yeah.
And every time, I look at myself like,
There
man,
used to be a big New Year's Eve. They should shave their head off. They want to.
You gotta quit trimming it.
Yeah.
And they're really.
is that the secret? Because no, I have like this small club table thing, man. I can't get like a big mustache on it.
I just trim, like when it comes down in my lips, then I just trim the bottom of it.
No, it's not,
So
no.
it's
just a
not
matter-
the width
but I
here
think the
is-
one thing too, whenever, early on, I
Are you
think
sure?
Yeah.
the one concern was when
Nah,
they
man,
were
I'm
mostly
just-
just battles and forever singing, which I knew that with that, but I wouldn't
Oh,
carry through.
that's
to
what my
the
wife
dance
told her.
group. So I think I told Heather that.
It fits.
She-
How
she-
do the national anthem for us or do something like that.
She just-
There were
she
a couple
just did it.
times I talked to her, but I think the scheduling.
She
or
thought
something
I was
didn't
Spanish
work out
when I
that
first
way.
met her.
But as far as, I mean, yeah.
She gets all over. I mean, she just.
You speak Spanish?
No,
Let me
what's up,
introduce
bro?
you to my stepdad.
I was like, she thought, as I was walking up, she thought it was
Well, we're
Spanish.
always like.
That's
And then when I opened my mouth, I was like, all right, man.
Definitely for Independence Day and for.
That's not on, is it?
For both days.
And I just, you know, I mean, it's not a big deal because they're booked, like they're already booked solid through
Yeah.
this year. I mean, they.
Request a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And I have a second from Mr. Harvey. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Yes.
Yes. And council, thank you for the long hours tonight. I appreciate
I
it.
was waiting on you to raise your hand. Don't make my mind.